Scuderia F1, the podcast that's always up to speed with the latest Formula One news. Follow us on Twitter at Scuderia F1 Pod and subscribe to the show on iTunes and Stitcher. Now, here are your hosts, Mark Daly and Kevin Laramie.
Good day, good night, and welcome to Scuderia F1, the podcast that is always up to speed with Formula One. I'm Kevin Laramie, flying solo for a little qualifying recap after the 2019 Bahrain Grand Prix qualifying. It was interesting, fascinating. The Ferraris are back. Australia was just a little setback, and Ferrari got their 60-second front grid lockout to tie McLaren and Williams in the record. So they tied the record for most amount of front grid row lockout with first and second Charles Leclerc, the second youngest ever driver to get a pole position in Formula One, 200 days older than Sebastian Vettel when Sebastian Vettel got his first pole almost a decade ago. So congratulations to Charles Leclerc. Full measure, he deserved this pole. Was fast all day long. It was 0.3 of a second fastest than Vettel in FP3 in the morning Saturday, midday Bahrain time, and of course the qualifying happens in the evening. So is the race, like you can see behind me. It is a very fascinating Grand Prix shaping up to be in front of us tomorrow. Can't wait to watch this Grand Prix. Let's take a look at the result of qualifying and talk about Charles Leclerc's 1:27.866, a record. Of course, Charles Leclerc had a good FP2 run in 2017 at this Grand Prix, so I'm not surprised by this pole position by Charles Leclerc, who is confirming his pace from last Grand Prix in Australia. Late in the race, he was putting pressure on Sebastian Vettel and was told by his team to just wait, to just stay behind. Don't risk it. Don't risk passing Vettel and taking out the cars or making him angry because you're faster. But Charles Leclerc showed that he is fast, and he was faster than Sebastian Vettel. Sebastian Vettel 1:28.160. Second, very, very close to Lewis Hamilton. Third, Lewis Hamilton 1:28.190. So 0.3 hundredth of a second slower for Hamilton, which is very close when you think about it. It is like not even a fraction of a second. It is insane how close Hamilton and Vettel will be tomorrow. And if we go back to Friday in FP1 and FP2, we did see the Mercs and Ferrari being very close. The Mercs are close in race setup, race pace to Ferrari. At least they were in FP3. So that will be fascinating during the race. Charles Leclerc seems to be fast. Maybe Leclerc will just have a good start, take off, and never to be seen or heard from again during this race and win his first Grand Prix. That's a high probability prediction for tomorrow. But the second and third spot, those will be highly contested between Vettel and Hamilton, depending on Bottas' speed. We'll see. Let's go back. Speaking of Bottas, fourth in this qualifying in Q1. 1:28.256, so not too far away as well from Hamilton, very close. And then Verstappen, fifth. He was not happy after the race. Christian Horner was talking to Sky Sports, of course, during the qualifying, saying with the change of temperature that can happen in the race itself, in the qualifying itself on the track with the floodlights and the places that don't have floodlights in between sunlight and no sun, there's a very big gap, and the window of performance from your soft tires being hot enough to be really quick to being cold to not giving you the performance and then being almost a hindrance to your qualifying lap is very, very small. He didn't want to share the detail, like the exact amount of degrees in Celsius between where the tires are hot enough to be good and performant and give you that difference, to give you the confidence to go for your great lap, or just a few degrees off, and it's already a difference for the tires on the car. You didn't share how big that window is, but it's a few degrees. We're talking about like 4 degrees. And in a place like Bahrain that has a big fluctuation of temperature in a one-day period because of either the sun and the lack of moisture in the air at night, the temperature, the heat basically escapes a bit more than other temperate climates. So this in Bahrain makes a big difference. And we've Christian Horner of Red Bull was talking about that. So Max Verstappen not happy with his 5th position. But what a performance again by Haas. Rich Energy Haas, 6th. Kevin Magnussen, K-Mag, my man, 128.757. First of all, your mother had great taste naming you, my Kevin brethren. But Kevin Magnussen, 128.757. 0.891 away from pole. I like the fact that the top 7 are in the same second and Grosjean's close by 2, but K-Mag 6th for Haas, confirming their good result from last Grand Prix. Carlos Sainz for McLaren, very good performance. 7th position on the grid for the Grand Prix tomorrow. 128.813, very close to 6th position. Great lap by Carlos Sainz with the Renault engine. He is the fastest Renault engine in this race. Of course, Leclerc, Vettel, Ferrari with the Ferrari engine, Hamilton, Bottas with the Merc engine, then Verstappen with the Honda engine, K-Mag with the Ferrari engine, the Lara chassis, and Carlos Sainz 7th with a McLaren chassis and a a Renault engine. So Carlos Sainz, the fastest of the Renault engine. Number 8, Romain Grosjean, 129.015. He is not in the same second than the second to 8th, of course. Leclerc, the only one in the 127th, by the way. But Romain Grosjean, 129.015. Not bad. Got out qualified by K-Mag, but still very fast in the top 10. If a good performance during the race, and especially if Grosjean can stay on track and stay in the race, if Grosjean can finish, both Haas's can probably finish in the point in the Bahrain Grand Prix in 2019, which would be an amazing beginning of the season for Haas, which do look like a favorite right now for the 4th position in the Constructors' Championship, better known as the best of the rest, outside of the top 3 of Ferrari, Mercedes, and Red Bull. Now, 9th, Raikkonen. What a performance in the Alfa Romeo. Compared to his teammate, Tony Gio. 16th for Tony Gio. 16th for my man Tony. That's far away, very, very far away, and quite a difference of time. Almost a second, well, actually a little bit over a second between Raikkonen and Tony Gio, and that second is called experience, my friends. That second is called talent, and that second is called Kimi Raikkonen. 129.022 for Alfa Romeo. Lando Norris finishing the top 10. A great performance by the rookie as well for McLaren. Both McLaren at the top 10, and if it goes chalk, both McLaren gets into the points. And that would be quite an improvement from the last few years. 129.043 for Lando Norris. Now, just missing Q1 by just a little second here. Sorry about that. Missing Q1 by just a little second is Danny Ricciardo. But he did outqualify his teammate. Hülkenberg is one of the story of this qualifying. He missed out on Q2, was cut basically after Q3. Let's take a look first at the ones that did make it to Q2. So not making it to Q3, Kubica, Russell, Stroll, Hülkenberg, and Tony Gio. Those 5 drivers were eliminated after Q3. Well, Q1. Didn't make it to Q2. So Kubica and Russell, bad. They're far away. They're over a 1.5 second off Lance Stroll in 18th. The quickest. And both cars are in a similar time. So the difference, Russell might be a bit faster than Kubica, But if both are extracting the biggest amount of potential out of the car, which seems to be the case because they're very, very, very close in the timing, which means they're last in the championship. They're worst cars on the grid by 1.5 seconds, which is an eternity in Formula One. So Kubica and Russell, you're in for a long season, my friends. You're in for a long and hard and depressing season. Williams is now Minardi. Get that through your head, people. Lance Stroll, 18th. Yeah, not a great lap. He was caught with a lot of traffic on the race. And his 6th straight Grand Prix, not making it out of Q1. That's a bad performance again on the qualifying for Lance Stroll. But race-wise, he did really well last week. And he did really well over the last few races, ran a race pace. So his race pace is there. Lance Stroll may be gunning for a 12 or 13 spot on Sunday. But I don't think points are possible for the Montrealer, Quebecer, Canadian this weekend in Bahrain. Nico Hülkenberg, what a deception. What a big, big disappointment for Nico Hülkenberg and Renault. 17th in qualifying, did not make it out of Q1, wanting to gamble on the soft tires and saving a set here to really try to go for it. Only made 6 laps during Q1 and 1:30.034 for Hülkenberg. Tony Gio, 16th, doing his best, but his best is not good enough. Raikkonen is really getting the best out of the car in qualifying. Another top 10 for Raikkonen, but Giovanizzi, 16th. Danny Kvyat, 15th, made it to Q2, but that's all the car had for Danny Kvyat. Yes, we do see maybe a potential rivalry or because Albon was a lot faster than Kvyat, but still didn't make it out of Q2, but never mind. Kvyat, 15th. Sergio Perez, Racing Point in 14th position tomorrow for the race. 1:29.756 for the Mexican. Pierre Gasly with Red Bull, 13th. 13th! Now, that is unacceptable, people. 13th, okay, the car might not, he'd struggle with the car, struggle with the suspension and the grips all along the weekend so far. He mentioned after qualifying, they got a few things wrong and now they need to focus on race pace. But for Pierre Gasly now, that's the second straight qualifying with Red Bull that things go really wrong. You're with one of the top 3 teams in the field. One of the biggest budget, a team that won 4 consecutive world championships in the early part of this decade. And you qualified 13th when your teammate qualifies 5th. Pierre Gasly not performing like a Red Bull driver so far in 2019. And we have to call a spade, being outshined by his counterpart, Ferrari, Charles Leclerc. Those two have a very similar path. Both coming in very young to a very top team. But Charles Leclerc handling it a bit better so far. Pierre Gasly, very disappointing qualifying for the 2nd straight Grand Prix for Red Bull. And that is something to remember and to be quite interested for tomorrow's race. Because if Gasly gets some good race pace tomorrow, then he might be able to overtake a few spots, make himself into the top 10, into the points. But to whose replacement? Is he going to be taking Norris's spot, Grosjean? So that will be a good thing to watch for. If Gasly gets it going and gets the right setup for the race, he might have to prove things, but then he's going to have to take over Albon. Alex Albon, 12th. Good performance for the Toro Rosso. Not bad at all. 1:29.513. Very good. He out-qualified his teammate by a few spots. So, and almost half a second. So, that's pretty good lap for Alex Albon with Toro Rosso in number 12. And Danny Ricciardo. That was close, though. A lot closer than last week. Almost made it to Q3. But Ricciardo got just out-pipped at the line by Lando Norris, Ricciardo finishing, and then Norris just a few seconds later beating his time and getting into the top 10 in Q1. But for Renault and Danny Ricciardo, it's good signs. It's getting there. It's not bad. You were beaten by McLaren, which has the same engine as you, but that's it. It's not too bad. But Ricciardo was close. He made a bit of the difference if you look at his time versus Hülkenberg. Yes, there's other circumstances for Hülkenberg. He gambled and he lost, but still, interesting aspect for tomorrow's race. So that's what the Q1 looks like. The qualifying looks like for tomorrow. It's very close between Hamilton and Vettel. That will be something to watch for tomorrow. The battle between Gasly and Toro Rosso in front of him, Gasly with Red Bull. Max Verstappen, will he be able to sustain the pace and be close enough to the Mercs or the Ferraris? And one thing we need to think about for Ferrari, Leclerc is really fast and goes amazing. Vettel's going to be starting second again, 62nd front row of the grid lockout for Ferrari. But the thing we need to think about is last week. They never really, 2 weeks ago, in the last Grand Prix, they never really said what was wrong and why they were not that fast. They say, it was maybe there was a cooling, and it was maybe the front wing that was deflecting some air, and it was going straight into the cooling, giving us a bit more difficulty cooling the engine and everything, and we didn't get the right performance. Maybe it's that. So they were saying this hypothesis, but they might be hiding something else. They might not have it dialed up all the way up to its full potential in Australia, thinking maybe if we do so, we have reliability issues. And if this is what they were thinking, and they think because it was track specific, because of the long straightaway, maybe that's why, with the temperatures now going to Bahrain, maybe we can go dial it a bit higher and still think the car is going to be reliable. But that might be a question tomorrow during the race. Will Ferrari's car be reliable? Because if they didn't dial it down to be conservative like they did in Australia, because they knew there was something there. And is that something, was it addressed? Was that what they meant when they said, oh yeah, we're good, we've addressed our issues heading into Bahrain? Is it that, or could it be a reliability issue coming during the race if they're pushed? We'll see. And if Hamilton pushes Vettel, it might highlight a flaw of a car, and that's what we're going to see. It's still so early in the season, we don't really know yet which car has which flaws to a point, especially between the Ferraris and the Mercs. And tomorrow, if they fight each other on the track in the same second with the new DRS, that's very influential in the result now, just because of the size of it, with the new rules for this year, with the size of the back wing. It's humongous. And so that when the flap opens, there's a lot more air there, so there's a lot more gain of pure speed in that DRS. So DRS will be a lot more useful. And they added a third zone of DRS in the Bahrain Grand Prix. So if you look behind me in the video, you have the one DRS zone there, the one DRS zone straight behind me right here where my thumb is, and now you have the third one right up there. So boom, 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 with the corners in between, not with the DRS. So that is fascinating. And we'll see how it influences the race tomorrow. But if you're a driver, like if the top 5 cars might be all in a train together, and you might not want to be first during the last lap, it might be NASCAR style without the bumping, just using DRS. Last DRS zone, you just get behind, aspiration, DRS, you move aside, boom, bye-bye, buddy. I'm taking the checkered flag. That could be very fascinating and very beautiful to watch. So that's going to happen tomorrow during the Bahrain Grand Prix. Hope you enjoyed this recap of qualifying today. Let's take a look again at the qualifying results right here. You can follow me on social media at Kev Larme. Mark will be back for the regular full show at Mark JR Daily. Follow our Twitter feed at Scuderia F1 Pod. and hashtag Bahrain GP SF1 Live. And we will see each other very soon. But until we do so, I do wish you a great Formula One.
Thanks for listening to the Scuderia F1 Podcast. If you want to get the show notes for this episode, then head over to ScuderiaF1Pod.com. Want to get in touch with us? Then email us at ScuderiaF1Pod@gmail.com.